Let's go ahead and take a look at what a loan origination process could look like using UiPath Maestro, some of the tools that are and capabilities that are available within it, and including the UiPath Agent. So as you can see here, this is a process flow for a loan origination. Within this, we're performing a number of different steps to take in some information, so let's just documentation, reading the information from that, applying some logic to it, and getting an output from that to help us determine if the applicant is eligible for a loan, and if so, what type of loan that should be, and then we'll generate a contract from that and send it to them as a follow-up. So with this, let's go through the steps a little bit more, just so we can understand exactly what is happening here. So the first step that we do is we extract that using UiPath IXP, which is UiPath's capability for reading unstructured documents. So this could be things such as a contract, a property document of some sort, financial documents that aren't necessarily structured or semi-structured in some way. And then we're able to have it pull out specific details that we need. Next step that we do is we're going to validate those details. Does it actually include everything that we actually need to be able to perform this loan eligibility? So do we have the ID? Do we know the property type? Do we know their specific financial information? If any of those pieces of information are missing, then we're going to request back to the applicant for them to provide us some more details so that we can then perform or continue on with this process. Assuming that we do have everything, what we're going to do next is we need to update our loan origination system. So this could be updating with the fact that they did apply, what type of application it is, any of the property details, or if there's any updates about their themselves as a person. Those may have to be updated in that system. Within that, there's also going to be some validation checks that happen just to make sure, does the name match? Maybe they provided a license and we're making sure that the license ID matches. So these are just some additional checks that will happen within that system. And then finally, we need to calculate some risk details. So these are going to be some pieces that are going to help us understand what level of risk are we going to be taking as a financial industry to say this person should get a loan or not. What is the likelihood of them being able to pay it, being able to afford it, based on maybe the property or their financials. And this will help us with some of those details that we're looking for. Having all of that information, what we now want to do is generally you would have somebody, a loan officer, that's reading all this information, going through all of it, and making some decisions as they go through. We're going to actually replace that loan officer here with a eligibility agent. And what this agent is going to do is going to take in all this information that we've extracted, all the way from the documentation through the parallel checks that we've done, including the risk calculations. And it's going to take all that, and based on a specific prompt and some other information that we're looking for, it's going to come back to us with a eligibility output or recommendation. And that recommendation is going to provide us a value as well as the reasoning behind why it got to that recommendation. We're going to jump into that into just a second here. I just want to touch on the last couple of items that are going to occur within this flow. So next pieces that we'll see is if this recommendation doesn't meet specific criteria. So let's say this is a complex or even maybe a medium complexity loan, and it's not something very simple or straightforward, we're going to pass it over for a person to look at. And this might just be for them to review the recommendation and say yes or no, or may require them to do a little bit more digging because maybe it's a very complex loan. If it's not that complex, or once the person has reviewed and they've approved it, then we are going to update our loan origination system with the loan details, generate a contract, and then notify the applicant with that information. If, of course, the human that does review it does decide, no, this is too risky, or we don't want to take this loan on, we will reject that loan at that point. And again, they will just receive a notification. So let's go ahead and jump into the loan agent itself so we can see a bit more of what that looks like. So this is the loan agent. And what this is doing is we're going to be taking in some specific details that we've captured. And we're going to have this agent perform some tasks for us to really understand, is this person actually eligible, or what is the recommended eligibility for them to get this loan. Now we can see at a very high level some of the key details that go into this agent. So such as the model that's using, in this case is GPT-4. If there is an escalation path for this agent, we would see that here as well. tools that the agent will be using. So in this case, we can see 3 of them: get credit history, get employment history, and get property details. And then if there's any context grounding pieces that we have used. So in this case, we have a loan application policy that the financial organization is set up to use, helps us understand or decide should we provide some loans. We're going to jump into this a little bit more detail here just to be able to see this more in depth. So we'll start off with the system prompt. Now within this prompt, what we're doing is there's a few different pieces within this that we've broken it down into. We provided a goal of what we're trying to do. So in this case, we've told the agent it's a loan officer, it's reviewing customer profile, and we want to recommend the loan type and recommendation for eligibility of those types of loans. We do need to have it look up some information that it will be available. This will be partly from our Loan Origination System. Some of it will be from the documents that were provided. And with those, it's going to help us determine should we actually provide this loan to this person. After it's analyzed this is where we're going to have it provide that risk calculation and financial recommendations based on the documents that it's extracted. So we tell it the steps to perform within this work that it does. So we want to evaluate the profile. There's going to be included information such as brokerage statement, income statement, employment history, and credit history. We'll need it to analyze the property that's been provided to it. So look at the property details and pricing, as well as the loan categorization. What type of loan should this require to be able to finance this property? And then finally, it's going to provide us the recommended loan type that should be used for this. Now, if there is a escalation that does occur, then we do want to make sure that that gets popped up. So this could be because certain information is missing or not available. And if there is any sort of escalation that occurs, we want to provide a summary of what's going on. So is there an affordability gap? Are there specific figures that we need to call out and provide back to the applicant so that they're aware of it? So this would be in place if we were to add in an escalation step. We did see in the canvas, we don't have one set up for this, but these would be some of the criteria that we might put in, and we might expand this to include other escalation reasons as well. Now, details for the analysis that it's going to perform is it's going to look at the property and align it with the different loan types that we have. So depending on the property value, that's going to impact what type of loan that they might get. What down payment requirements that we have for this type of loan, the total loan cost and terms, monthly payment breakdown, and any additional considerations that may be there. So things like risk for prepayment penalties, adjustable risk rates, balloon payments, things like that. And then finally, for its recommendation, we want to provide us with a risk rating between 0 to 100, and we're going to use intervals of 10 to 100, with 100 being high risk. If it's unaffordable, we want them the agent to clearly document the reasons for the unaffordability, basically to tell us, like, why do you think that this is unaffordable to them? And then if there is maybe some alternative suggestions there, it can provide those to us as well. This is really important for when we do have to escalate this, for instance, to a person to take a look at. Having those details is really going to help them zero in on what the reason for the escalation is, or why there needs to be someone to take a bigger or deeper look into this to really understand what's going on. Now, that kind of covers our overall prompt for this agent. Now, there are some key details that we are going to need, of course, to provide into this. Part of this is our risk calculations and financial document extraction. So we saw back on the Maestro view where we extracted all the details from the documents. We also performed that risk calculation just before calling the agent. So those two sets of values, which may include one or more different value types in them, they're going to be provided over to us for the agent to use as part of its analysis. Additionally, as was noted higher up, we do have tools that this is calling. So there is the credit history that it's going to call, which will reach out to our CRM, look at their credit history to really help understand, like, can they pay it back? What is their history of paying back loans, things like that. We're also going to call to get their employment history. So this will be from our core banking system, and really help with aiding that eligibility for determining if they can afford the loan that they're asking for. And then the property details. So this is looking at the details that were provided by the applicant and doing an assessment of it to really understand, does this loan fit them? Can they afford that loan? And any other details around that property itself. And then finally, we have the context grounding. So as mentioned, this is our loan application policies that would be in place at our financial institution. We've just uploaded that as a document. And I believe in this case, it's around a 30 or 40 page document that is looking at. And this really just helps the agent then be able to determine when a loan should be applied or what type of loans should be applied based on the property and the applicant's eligibility. We can see here we do have the ability to add escalations, and there's a new feature for MCP servers that can be added as well. We're not going to dive into those, but there are additional components that are available through here. Now, with this, what I want to do is I'm going to go back to our Maestro view, and we're going to run this process so we can actually see what this looks like when it goes through. So I'm going to go ahead and run this now. And we're going to see this start to flow through step by step as it goes. And we're going to see the activities happen as they occur. So you can see right now it's reading in those application documents. So these are some, I think it's about 3 or 4 documents that we've loaded in for financial statements, like brokerage statement. So it's reading those in, it's passing those through the UiPath IXP and extracting the specific details that we provided for. So this is an RPA workflow that is calling out to IXP, getting the information. It's then formatting the details that come back into a format that we want, and then it's going to use those further down within the this flow here. Once it's completed that, you're going to see it move into our validate application completeness. Now, once it's completed the validation, we see it move in and update our LOS system as well, perform some validation checks. And then we're going to do our risk calculation. Now, once that risk calculation score has been completed, we're passing this over to our agent. And we can actually see our agent running down here. So we are doing some LLM calls where it calls out to the agent. It's doing its first initial check against the details it has. It's calling out to get a credit history. It performs the get employment history. And then finally, it's going to do our property. And then once we have all that, we will get our eligibility from this run. So we'll know, is this loan going to be recommended to provide to the applicant, or is there some more view that needs to go into it to understand a bit more of what's going on? Now, it looks like we need to do a bit of a review here. So what we can do is we can go ahead and just click on our escalation review. And I'm going to go ahead and open this task inside the UiPath Action Center. And now within this, we can start to see some of the information that is available to us. So we can see the applicant name, the risk score that was applied to it, their credit score, the amount that they requested, some details about the property, and what the agent's eligibility recommendation is. So in this case, we can see, they're considering this property with high value. While their liquid assets are approximately $250,000, their credit score is good, but the LTV or loan to value ratio of 0.95 indicates a very high loan dependency. Their employment history shows a transition to self-employment, so there may be some income instability issues here that we want to take further look into, and this may just require a call or a conversation with the applicant just to get some more details. Here we have a brokerage statement that was provided, and you can see it's about 28 pages long, lots of details in it, and this is what the UiPath IXP was extracting details from to help us better understand their financial their current financial status. We also have an income statement document here that we've extracted some key details from. And then the context grounding, where I had mentioned that we do have some policies that we reference. So we can see here it's about 20 pages. And this is just, again, it helps us be able to indicate, what type of loans we should apply based on certain individual details or corporate details, as well as the size of the property and things like that. So we can review all this as a loan officer and then make a determination, should we provide this loan to this person? We, of course, have the option to say, to reject it or approve. Just for the sake of this demo, I'm going to go ahead and approve this just so we can see what this looks like. So once that's been approved, I'm going to go back over to our flow here, and we're going to see this update here in a second as it comes back through. There we go. So it's come back in, we've approved it. It's going to update, of course, our loan origination system, generate our contract, and then send a notification over to us. Now that notification is something that we then receive within our email. So here's our loan response that we've received. And of course, in this case, this is just being demo environment. We're just doing a very simple response, but we can have an attachment on this as well that maybe it involves the contract that we would have generated and provide back to the applicant. And so that is the kind of high level overview of what a agent along with inside a Maestro process can look like. Really kind of helps showcase, how simple these can be. They don't have to be super complex flows, and you can break down your activities into small robots that perform specific steps so that you're not having one giant automation that's trying to manage everything all at once. This is also very scalable. As these come in, each process, or in this case, each loan that would go through would have its own transaction that we'd be able to follow through. We could look at each individual transaction, see the state of where they are. And the great part is you can click onto any of these and see any of the current variables that are related to them that might come out, details for them. And in cases where, let's say, there is a job that fails for some reason, maybe when doing a update to the system, that loan origination system isn't actually online, and so it fails, we can actually cause this to retry. There's the capability here when you're in run mode that for going in and actually retrying a specific task, you can even go backwards and start over from another spot. So if there's maybe a change or an update that had to be done, you can actually restart from somewhere further back, have it re-perform the activities there, and then move forward from that point. Thank you very much. I hope this was educational for you. And if you have any questions, we are happy to help answer them over here at Greenlight Consulting. Thank you.